All right. Candidates have now completed their opening statements, and we're going to begin the questions. And before we do that, I want to remind the candidates about the strict time rules. The yellow light means 30 seconds. The red light means you're done. All right? We're going to start off with question number 1. And here we go. What do you believe to be the greatest threat to our country, and what would you do to reduce and eliminate that threat? And we'll start first with Larry Bucshon.
Thanks, Les. I think the biggest threat to our country right now is from within, I'll be honest with you. I think our continued downturn economically, our continued high unemployment rate, and government policies that I think are not going to reverse that is our biggest threat. People being unemployed in the United States is one of our biggest problems because it decreases our tax base. It decreases families. People are distraught out there. People don't know what to do. People don't want to know what their options are. Some of your biggest problems in a family, in a country, are from within. I think if we don't take back our government from the current administration and from the current House of Representatives, the unemployment rate will continue to stay the same or rise. There will be more distress amongst the population, and our economy is not going to recover. We continue to borrow money from foreign governments based on all of these things. And that will hurt, eventually, our own national security. And that's something we're generating ourselves. No one is doing that to us. So I specifically think that we need to reverse our economic policies. We need to balance the federal budget. We need to get the federal government out of our everyday lives as much as possible. And to do that, we need to elect, as a country, a new group of representatives that will stand by these policies, or else we are self-destructing. Thank you.
John Lee Smith.
There are a lot of problems facing our country today, and the first one I think is probably the most important is we have a devil's triangle in Washington, D.C. And the devil's triangle in Washington, D.C. bears the name of Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Barack Obama. And I call it that on purpose because they set the direction and the tone for our country, and it's a bad and improper direction, and we need that change. And so as I spoke earlier, the first thing we're going to do is change the Speaker of the House. And I believe we firmly have the ability to do that this year, because 2010 is going to be a watershed year and a history-making year. Secondly, what we need are jobs, jobs, and more jobs. I continue to say that on my TV commercials, but I mean it in person. If we don't provide jobs for our people, we're in big trouble. And my kids are going to end up in China just like your grandkids and your children, because that's the only place we're going to have jobs and employment. So that's got to be number 2. And number 3 is, of course, the national debt. Today we have $16 trillion in the national debt. They're assuming it's going to be $800 billion a year just to service the debt. The tendency for Washington is going to be to treat us the way that they've been treated in Greece and in Iceland. And if you follow that, you've seen where Greece has been forced under austere programs by the bankers, and they've been forced to raise their taxes. There's national sales tax right now is at 21%, and people are marching in the streets because they don't like the wages they're receiving. And if you watch that in Greece, we're right behind them. And the other country is Iceland, and people are leaving Iceland in droves, and they're doing it because the bankers are forcing them also to reduce their services and increase their taxes. And their solution there was to levy $185 a month tax on each family for the next 10 years to pay for their debt. That's a lot of money for each family to have to pay, $185, and we're headed the same way. And my solution to all that is, it goes back to my modern-day mentor, which is Ronald Reagan. He said, you keep your taxes low, keep the government out of the way, and Americans can do the job. And that's what we're here for. John Lee Smith.
Hey, John. Clark Burnett.
The question again?
What do you believe to be the greatest threat to our country, and what would you do to reduce or eliminate that threat?
That's an easy one, the Democrat Party. No, seriously, folks, there is no one problem that I would say is the greatest. We've got many problems in this country. The war on terrorism. I'm shocked at what's happened on 9/11 and how much we have let our guard down in this country. This is the most dangerous time in America's history. You know, we've got this Ahmadinejad in Iran, who's the CIA said last week was within days, weeks, months of developing a nuclear bomb. I mean, this guy, you really need to follow him, because this guy, in my opinion, will use a nuclear bomb when he gets it. And I think America's nuclear threat, it's not a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when one of these crazy people will use a nuclear bomb. You think 4 planes did a lot of damage to this country, think what 1 nuclear bomb would do. Another thing that I think is a great threat, and nobody in Washington is talking about this, is drilling for own oil. What would happen if they did what they did in the 70s and shut our oil off? We got 15% of our oil back then off Muslim nations that didn't like us then, and they really do not like us now. We get over 60% of our oil there. What would happen if they shut the spigots off like they did in the 70s? We'd be out of oil. This nation would be in total chaos within a couple of days. We need to drill our own oil. In 4 states near Wyoming, we have 8 times more oil than Saudi Arabia. And because of liberal Democrats, we cannot touch it. I say we got plenty of oil. We know where it's at. Let's go drill it. But most of all, that is a national security risk there. We need to do something about it. And I wish I could talk more about this subject, because there's many things that's threatening our country. But thank you.